Hey everyone, welcome back for another video with GoGo Anime. If you guys want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/animegogowatcher. Now without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, for today's video, one of the most exciting and my favorite animes in the world, we're going to be talking about it, Yu Yu Hakusho. So, if you haven't heard about this anime, I get it. It came out in the 90s, so I know a big portion of my audience wasn't born around that time, but let me fill you in. So, looking at anime today, we understand that there are a lot of anime being produced every day, yet Yu Yu Hakusho is still one of the best animes of all time. It perfectly nails everything an action anime series needs to succeed. Now, it just held its 25-year anniversary, and I'm going to tell you guys why Yu Yu Hakusho is one of the best action anime of all time, and why it's still hard to dethrone 25 years after its initial release. Here's a spoiler warning, I will be going through some of the series right now, so if you want to watch before I even say a word, go ahead, click away, I get it. Listen to this later once you watch the whole series and understand why it is the best. But for me saying it's one of the best action anime, it's true, it really is. But getting into it, it has one of the most compelling hooks in all of action anime, starting off by killing the main character, Yusuke. Yusuke dies when he saves a child from a car accident, and then the first few episodes of the series don't feel like a traditional action anime. It really actually sets it up for a lot of compelling emotional attachment between the characters and understanding the struggle, but really allowing you to have an understanding of how the spirit world works. So getting into it a little bit, Yusuke wanders around the spirit world, and he is a spirit for quite a while as he attempts to bring himself back to life. So fans are allowed an easier and gentler introduction into the spirit world. Then after it gets its hooks in you, it just drops a frown bomb with soul-crushing funeral that sparks Yusuke into believing his life truly has worth, which, you know, we all have worth, and being able to see someone else, like an anime character especially, to see their worth in their life, it really makes it worth it. You might cry. So then, after passing a series of tests, Yusuke is allowed to return to the living world, but with a few caveats. So he gains abilities and he's able to see spirits and demons, and then Yusuke is given the title of the underworld detective, and that's the whole premise of the show, is he's solving detective crimes. He's a spirit detective. He goes around solving various cases of spirit running amok in the living world. From there, it's on. Now moving on, let's talk about why Yusuke is such a strong main character. Okay, first off, we get an introduction unlike any other action anime protagonist, but let me say this, that Yusuke is definitely worthy of the highly emotional first arc that he gets. Now, with that being said, in one of the very first actions, Yusuke is already presented as a kid who wouldn't immediately jump into danger for no reason. With that, he jumps in front of a car to save a little kid that he doesn't know, which 5 minutes earlier he was fighting off guys and he was being a bully. Like, what? Now, as the story develops, you get to see how he begins the series much like any other high school delinquent in anime, but as the show progresses, fans learn that Yusuke's had to deal with a terrible upbringing with his alcoholic mom and absentee dad, and then he also gets terrible teachers literally out to get him, and although he talks spicy, Yusuke is just a kind boy who wants friends. I mean, maybe they don't directly say that, or he says that in the anime, but you can kind of see that there is kind of a want for other people in his life as well. And you can kind of see it as the story goes on. It explains his closeness with his girlfriend Keiko, quote-unquote girlfriend, his eventual teacher-pupil relation with Genkai, and even stranger teacher-pupil relationship he winds up having with his series villain Toguro and Sensui. Yeah, you heard me right. He has teacher-pupil relationships with the series villains that he goes and fights against. Like, there is some depth to this show, and you need to watch it. But as the story goes on, it needed a strong emotional core to hold everything together, and it's just that in Yusuke Urameshi. Okay, continuing on, let's talk about Yusuke's great allies, all of his friends, the great four guys all together. We love them. So unlike almost all animes, or any show for that matter, it's about assembling a great cast with the main character. Balancing out Yusuke's strengths come with new friends and allies with equally strong presences. Like any good action anime, Yusuke ends up befriending many of his early foes and becomes friendly rivals. You know, that's how it goes. he becomes friendly rivals with each of them. So first comes Kuwabara, a fellow delinquent with a kind heart and code of honor, who ends up hilariously helping out a dead Yusuke against his will and gets closer to him as a result. Now, a few episodes down the road, when Yusuke goes into his first case, the same goes for the demons turned buddies, Kurama and Hiei, who initially serve as the foes, but their transition into a full crew is done by a heavier hand as they form a working relationship until the events of the Dark Tournament bring them closer together. Like, for real. They get real close later in the series because of this. And then it kind of develops a little bit more because each character in the core group has their own set of desires and motivations outside of Yusuke's influence. So when they have their individual battles, which action series often dedicate much time to, it's easier to root for them when Yusuke isn't directly involved. Now, moving on to those teacher-pupil series villains, let's talk about how great these villains are in this series. Now, just like the tears you cry in Hunter x Hunter when Miriam has his great villainy and the scenes with him, I know, I cry every time. Or Dragon Ball Z when you see Vegeta, Cell, Frieza, Boo, any one of those characters, or a plethora of other animes. With that, you know you gotta have a strong roster of villains. And this show delivers. So, although some are immediately more forgettable than others, such as Sensui's 7 Psychics, Mukura, and Yomi in the Demon World Tournament arc, or even Rando, the series still has strengths in its 2 core antagonists, Toguro and Sensui, and then we get some other characters that may not actually be villains necessarily, but they play a big role as antagonists for each arc. Let's talk about the beautiful, poetic scenery in what is known as the animation of this show. It's beautiful. We all know animation usually makes or breaks an anime. I know JoJo is wildly known as such a good anime, and its animation does such a good job with that. And you have anime that just don't do a great job. I know there was one scene in Black Clover that just didn't do it for me, and it's a good show, and I read the manga and it does a great job, but then there's just some action scenes that just are under par in what you want to see it develop into. But with that being said, Yu Yu Hakusho delivers. Now, looking back, we look at a lot of anime like Dragon Ball Z and Cowboy Bebop, and we see them back in the 90s and what they had done and what they still do, and if they hold up. They do. A lot of these animes do, for the most part, hold up to time, but Yu Yu Hakusho does it, and it does it in such a different manner that now I know in 2018, Yu Yu Hakusho had an OVA release in Japan for its 25th anniversary, and I know that the creator of the show was also the creator of, you might know it, Hunter x Hunter, which is on hiatus x hiatus, but I hope to see in the near future that this is an anime they can most certainly do a re-release and kind of revamp the animation and just kind of redo it, because Hunter x Hunter is known as one of the best anime in its own, and Yu Yu Hakusho stands up just as well, and for them to do over on the animation and just kind of re-highlight it and retouch it up would be fantastic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. That will do it for me, guys. Talk to you guys later. Go anime out.